Okay, let's get started here this morning. Very, very exciting. We have a great guest with us today, Kelly Fischer from Vero Beach, Florida. Very excited to hear all about all the cool things that are going on. And as I mentioned to the group on our role play earlier today, that you had finally broken the $1 million a year income barrier, and you did it in COVID 2020. So congratulations, young lady.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Very, very good. So what I'd like to do, first of all, is if you could do like a little Reader's Digest version of your career, let's say in real estate, where you started, et cetera, and then we can just bring it up till today and we'll start going from there.
So in 1994, I was working in a publishing company, which is where my husband worked too, and we got married. And I knew that I was not going back to that job because it was terrible.
Move it in front of her so she can have it.
1 second. Let me.
Move
Robert, you got it? Got it. Perfect.
Got it.
Sorry, Kelly.
Start over?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So it was 1994, and I was working for a publishing company on Long Island, and we were about to get married, and I knew I wasn't going to go back to that job. So I had opened up the newspaper, and I saw an ad for Prudential Real Estate on Long Island. I'm sure you know a lot of the people that were in that company back at that time.
Sure, absolutely.
And went in to interview, and they said, the world is your oyster. You can make as much money as you want. And I said, that sounds great. So quit the job, got a real estate license, went to my first day at work, and Barbara Schultz gave me a desk and a phone and said, sit down and get to it. And I just, even before I had any training, started cold calling.
Really?
Yeah. And I was surrounded by, some amazing agents. A couple of years later, I moved out to a different Prudential office on Long Island, and I ran into even more agents, some of whom were Mike Ferry trained agents at that point. And I didn't like any of them. I thought they were all arrogant, terrible people. And back in that time, Matthew was very young. Matthew was doing the training, and I was like, oh, I don't like that guy either. So I kind of pushed the whole Mike Ferry system aside for quite some time. And then I actually went to an event for the first time on Long Island that Bill Pipes hosted. And as he used to say, that was where I popped. And I moved to Florida shortly thereafter, joined coaching. And that's where my career actually started 10 years after it started.
10 years after
when I learned how to sell real estate after 10 years.
So you were cold calling for that first 10 years. You were calling expireds for sale by owners, just listed, just sold.
Exactly. Yeah. But I didn't have any skills or scripts or anything. I was just, kind of winging it because there was not really much in the way of training.
At that particular time, how much business were you doing?
I would do like 10 or 12 deals a year, but I wasn't really full-time either because my kids were young. They were little. So I was kind of a part-time agent, but even at 12 deals a year, they were like, oh, you're a really great agent.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Probably the traditional model.
Probably in the top 10 in the company, right?
In the office.
In the office.
Yeah. I mean, the company is big.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. So what took you to Vero Beach? Just a family move?
No. So my daughter's friend who lived down the block from us, her grandparents live here in Vero Beach, and they kept coming down here and saying, we're going to, Vero Beach is amazing. So we're going to move there. And so we were like, a lot of things in our lives started to fall into place in different ways. And we were like, we should think about moving. Where should we go? And it was like, well, Kathy says Vero Beach is nice. Let's go down there. And we came down and we were like, yeah, this is good. I mean, it was really just a complete Hail Mary, no plan. Like, we'll figure it out. And we just picked up and moved here.
So you moved down there. You have no past client in the sphere other than the grandparents.
Didn't know a soul,
right?
Nobody.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so I joined this office. And of course, now at this point, I was in coaching because I had attended my very first Superstar retreat in Hollywood, Florida. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I can do this. And when we moved, there was no jobs here for my husband. I mean, this is not the kind of place where there's a lot of industry or anything like that. And so we quickly realized that when he was offered the only job he was ever offered, which was a $30,000 a year job, that was not going to work in Vero Beach. So we kind of did a role reversal, and I said, how about you take on the mom role and I'm going to work. So that's what we did. He's been the mom all these years. He never got a job, and I supported us. I mean, I couldn't have done anything without him, of course, because he did everything and still does. But yeah, I went to the Superstar retreat, and then I went to another retreat, and I called him from the retreat, and I said, I'm going to do 50 deals next year and make $250,000. And he was like, what are you doing down there? You've never done anything like that. How are you going to do that? I was like, don't worry, I got it. And I didn't do it that next year. I didn't do it that next year. I did it the following year. Was the first year I got to 50.
What year was that? That where you made that? That
would have been like 2005. So we moved in 2003. And by 2006, I was the #1 agent in our county.
Whoa.
Because all I did was sit at my desk and prospect 8 hours a day, every day for months and months and months. Because I didn't know anybody.
Right. So you needed to get the business.
That was it.
Right. So expireds for sale by owners, that was it, right?
Expireds for sale by owners, just listed, just sold, constantly.
So you had quite a while to move it. So 2005, so 2006 was the first year you did 50 deals? Got it. 2007 came. What happened?
Well, then we started doing, the market started getting a little bit shaky, and we started learning how to do short sales and foreclosures. And 2008, the world basically imploded. I had, I say no thanks to Mike, who told us, be more, have more, do more, spend more. I was way in over my head. We had spent so much money. I had real estate and mortgages and everything else, and the whole thing was falling apart. And literally, I remember that day, October 2008, sitting in the bathroom in my old house, crying on the floor, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This is terrible. Like, you remember that day, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
My husband came into the bathroom and he goes, okay, I don't know who this pathetic girl is that's sitting on the floor crying. All I know is I thought I lived with the #1 agent in Vero Beach who knows how to go out and make money. And I don't know who you are, but maybe you should go find that other girl again.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good. So did that help turn you around a little bit?
Yeah, picked myself up, went back to work. I did not short sale any properties. I paid off, I had $120,000 in credit card debt that day. Wow. Paid off every penny of it without renegotiating any of it. Just held on and kept, I felt like we had to keep our integrity intact and not short sale things, and just, own the mistakes that we had made and move forward. So that meant I had to work and fix it. Had to fix it.
That was 2008, 2009.
Correct.
So when did it start to, you dug yourself out by what, 2010 or so, started to turn a little bit for you?
So I had a team. I had other agents working under me for quite a while. And I had a fairly, I would say, medium-sized team until maybe 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And
so before we go there, so what's a medium-sized team look like, and what kind of production?
4 or 5 agents, 125 transactions a year, 2 admins.
Got it.
And I hated every second of it.
And 125 deals would gross you what?
The most we ever did at that point was, like, before it was just me, it was probably about 850,000. So of course the majority of the production was me, and the rest was me handing everybody business.
Right. And that was the part that annoyed you.
Well, and I take a lot of the blame myself because, I'm not someone who's, I don't think I'm well suited to a leadership role in that capacity. I like being the person who's doing the work,
Okay.
not the person who's doing the training, if that makes sense. And
Sure.
I think it's an important distinction, especially today in the real estate market that we work in, where everybody thinks, oh, I have to be a team and I have to have, because they see it going on all around them. And what I learned over the course of the next 10 years is that not every situation is right for every person. You have to find what works for you that helps you accomplish your goals and makes you happy, because you can be making all the money in the world and be miserable. And what good is it?
Well, for sure. So the decision to become a team was to do more business, make more money, correct?
Take some of the workload off me.
Right. And so that you would do less, not more.
Correct.
How'd that work out?
Well, it wasn't great because now I'm having to do all the lead generation. I'm trying to have to teach other people lead generation. Then I'm dealing with multiple personalities, and then you're trying to like coordinate the different personalities and who's whining about what. And, and meanwhile, there's only one person paying the bills, as you know, right?
Right.
And so, and again, I look back and it was probably me not having been trained properly in how to build a team, which is fine. I was the first agent in my market to have a team. I mean, that was just not something that was being done back then. So I learned a lot of things about just people and loyalty and so many things. And now that I'm, almost 30 years in, I think I've found my happy place.
All right. I love it. So you shifted gears again in about 2.5, 3 years ago?
2.5, 3 years ago. One day my whole team walked out and quit on me, all within about a 3-day period.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. And so what was your thinking then? Did your husband come in?
I'll be honest with you. More than anything, my pride was so hurt. I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be talking about this and blah,
Right.
like the stuff that goes through your head.
Sure.
And then I just said, you know what? I am just going to sit here and I am just going to wait, and I'm going to wait till God tells me what I'm supposed to do next. And I'm not going to make any rash decisions, and I'm not going to freak out, and I'm not going to, I'm just going to wait until it becomes obvious what my next move is. And it was great because what happened was my main assistant decided to open a transaction coordinator business. So she didn't really leave because she was mad at me, although she was mad at me, but she also was going into business for herself to do essentially what she was doing for me, but for lots of different agents. And that turned into, after a couple of days of, getting my mat on and saying, like, I'll never work with her again, I realized she was probably one of my biggest assets. And I really could use her services to, get going again and keep doing what I was doing. So I became her first client. And I figured out that having me as her client was better than having her as my employee, and it was much more cost effective. So to this day, 3 days later, she's still my TC and she's fantastic, and I would not change a thing.
Well, that's great. That worked out really well for you.
Yeah, I went from paying her like $75,000 a year to probably less than $25 a year for the same job.
Because it's on
per transaction.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Yep.
Interesting. There's a lesson there.
For sure.
Yeah, excellent. So, okay, so you got through that. What about taking the listings and managing the sales, et cetera, et cetera?
So then I actually hired another assistant who became the listing coordinator, and she worked for me for a year. And I did that. I didn't want to hire another person, but I was at a retreat, and our probably mutual friend Kelly Capolino told me to hire Kathy Metcalf and her company to find me an assistant, which I said, really? I don't want to spend $8,000 to find an assistant. But she said, trust me, just do it. So I was like, fine, whatever. So I hired them to find me an assistant, and they found me the most amazing assistant. And after a year on the job, she wrote me an email and said, Kelly, I don't know how to tell you this, but we're moving to Texas, so I'm giving you my notice.
Oy.
I was like, oh, seriously? So I said to her, would you consider, until I find your replacement, working remotely? And she said, yeah, that could probably work. I said, okay, great. So she moved to Texas and we went into remote mode. And then it was working out fantastically. I was like, this is great. Now I don't have any employees to supervise, but I still have all the services that I need. Nobody comes into the office. And then what happened? COVID hit. And I'm like, this is great. I'm all set up already. I got the listing coordinator. I got the TC. They're all working remote anyway. And I don't have to worry about payroll. It was completely perfect. Everything was perfect.
So,
and that's still to this day how we work.
Wow.
Anna Maria's in Texas. Angie's here in Vero Beach. She's got her TC business. And I just hired my first showing assistant who might become a buyer's agent, but I'm still really reluctant to have on-site staff. But I just got so busy, I can't do it all by myself anymore.
So how many listings taken more or less in 2020?
80, 85.
85 listings, all by yourself.
Uh-huh.
And so how many appointments is that?
I'm very good on appointments. So that's about 105 appointments.
So 105 appointments, and you're doing all the prospecting. You're probably buying a lot of leads, right, Kelly?
I would not say that, no. First of all, this is probably not a good thing to say to the group, but being that I've been a broker for almost 30 years, to almost 20 here in Vero, and this is such a small town, I get a lot of calls to come list me. I don't spend a lot of time prospecting anymore. I used to, but it's all come full circle at this point that I don't really spend a whole lot of time on that anymore.
So we're talking about past client and sphere that you still market to.
Correct.
Right. Okay. All right. So you've been nurturing that database for a long time.
Almost 20 years.
Right. And about how many people in the database?
The database is really big because I have not done it the way Mike tells us to do it. Basically, if I have meaningful conversations with people and they end up in my database, because I do a lot of video marketing, which is very inexpensive. And so people see me on a very regular basis on my video blog and things like that. So I do, attempt to talk to them on a regular basis, but even if I don't talk to them, they also see me quite a bit on video.
How long have you been doing, are you using Viral? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So how long have you been doing that work?
I was one of Frank's first clients. So that's I don't know what year that was, probably 2008, maybe 2009.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so you're sending out about how many videos 2-3 times a month?
Yeah. Twice a month.
Twice a month. How many people?
To probably 12,000 people.
Woo! You go.
And the other thing that I think has been really critical that I was on very, very early is online reviews.
Okay.
I started working on online reviews like probably 15 years ago when Zillow first started. So I've got almost 300 Zillow reviews and, just reviews all over the place. So, that drives referral business from other agents. It drives buyer and seller traffic. I use it, retread it for marketing and things like that. So the reviews have probably been the biggest thing. And I do that very purposefully with every transaction that goes well. I have an email template that I send to the client, and it's got Zillow review, Realtor.com review, Google review, Yelp review, Facebook review, and I forget what the other one is. And I just send it to them, and in a nice email, cut and paste. It's the same every time, and I might modify it a little bit, and ask them if they would kindly write some reviews. And more often than not, they do. So
Very nice. And then, so you have and that's the Yelp and all those kinds of things, right?
correct.
Got it. Okay. So who gets that stuff out for you? Is that the gal in Texas? Does she coordinate it, getting it where it's supposed to go, getting the letter out to the client, etc.?
You talking about the reviews?
No, not the review, but the email or the letter that goes to the client and asks them for the review.
I do it. It takes me 2 seconds on the day of closing. I just, like, oh, today I closed this, and cut and paste, boom.
Got it.
There's certain
Okay.
things that I think need to be personal for me. So I like to, write a nice note from me, congratulations on your closing. It's been great working with you. One of the things that we really value is feedback from our clients. If you would care to take a few minutes to say a few kind words, there are some links below that you can cut and paste the same review onto, and that helps us, to help more people like you, blah, blah, blah.
And that's an email, text, or note card?
Email.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes 2 seconds.
Got it. Okay. So that's a preset item that's part of a checklist when you close the transaction, correct?
Yeah, that's the checklist in my brain.
Okay. Okay. Got it. That's great. Okay. So, so COVID hit, you're all set for it. And did you do anything different? Did you talk to people differently? Did you
Well,
work?
it was very funny because, for the first month or so, I just said, you know what? I got enough money in the bank. I'm just going to hang out for a while and we'll see where this goes. And I didn't really do a whole lot. I just kind of hung out. I think a lot of people probably did the same thing. Like, what the hell is going on here,
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, okay, I guess at some point we're going to need to go back to work. And we were very fortunate that Florida was open, and we were still considered essential, which was great. So, we were doing what everyone else was doing, watching Zoom calls, like, how are we going to function in this environment? How are we going to list houses? How are we going to show property? Like, I got to wear masks. Like, it was just, this is crazy. And so I started, learning a little bit about making presentations online, because I really was not very proficient at that. And then I got my first listing through a Zoom call. Well, after I had the seller send me a couple of pictures from their phone, and they were okay with that. And I'm like, really? People are going to be okay with this? This is weird, but okay, I'm in. So, and I met them for the first time when I had a showing at the house a few weeks later, and they were totally cool. And I was like, okay, this is good. We could do this. And, the market just kept going. And the weirder the country got, the more people kept flocking to Florida. And 2020 wasn't a great year for listings, but 2021 is like insane. Like, if you thought last year was good, this year is crazy, crazy.
So tell me why you think that is.
Well, because I think a lot of people in other states are still suffering from lockdowns and mandates and all kinds of things. And everyone pretty much knows that Florida is, we're living our lives down here.
Right. Right. But
and people from the Northeast in California, they're kind of over it, and they're saying, I'm going to Florida. I'm going to, and I can go to Florida. I can have my freedom. I can buy a house for a third of what it cost me to live on Long Island or in New York City or wherever. And my taxes are going to be less, and I don't have state income tax. And so I'm going to Florida. So everybody's in Florida, and because there's no inventory, the prices just keep going up, up, up. The sellers don't want to move because they have nowhere to go. And it's like this vicious cycle, like it is all over the country, really, where we don't have inventory.
That's what I was. So that was the question, because you're running into, so I'm told, very similar issues that we are regarding inventory. So you've got a lot of people flocking to Florida, and yet you still have inventory issues because people aren't selling, right?
People aren't selling, and the houses that come on the market sell in literally a matter of hours. I mean, it's to the point now where if I'm working with a serious buyer, I have to call the listing agent literally before I get in the car to go show the property to make sure it's still available.
Got it. How do you talk to sellers, your seller who wants to sell, needs to sell, let's say, and is worried about buying another home? What's the best script or approach you are using for that?
So it's a very real concern. You have to, obviously align with them, and they have to realize that, yeah, this is not going to be easy. Do you have another home somewhere else? If you don't have another home somewhere else, are you flexible? Can you consider a double move if we can find you a rental before you find a house? That makes you a stronger buyer because you're a cash buyer because your house is sold. A lot of that is age dependent. If you have someone who's 75 years old, they don't want to move twice. Then there's possible rent backs. As a seller, you are in the driver's seat. If someone wants to buy your house, we can negotiate 90 days, 120 days. You get these people coming from the Northeast. They weren't planning on moving anyway. They still want to sell their house in New Jersey. If you don't give them possession till November, that might be okay.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're running into virtually the same issues we are. Sorry?
I said it's just a tough situation, and I just keep telling myself it's temporary. This is not going to last forever. The next cycle will come around, and we'll have so many sellers and no buyers, and then we'll be complaining about that too.
That's the truth. Absolutely. So based on your history, the things that you've run into with this kind of a marketplace, you've got an agent kind of like where you were, 8 to 10 transactions a year. What would you advise for them to do right now?
If you're only doing 8 or 10 transactions a year, I don't think you really have anything else on your plate other than to be doing lead generation.
Okay.
What else do you have to do at that point?
Well, they'll tell you that, and you were in the same place, they'll tell you that we're very busy. We have a couple of listings and we have a couple of sales and we got to track all this business, right? How do you, because you did this, Kelly, how do you, make that switch and say, I'm moving from 10 transactions a year, I'm going to 15 or 20 and on my way to 50. What's the mindset that has to come into play there?
The thing that was the most important to me at that point in my career was when you make the commitment to your morning schedule.
Okay.
Right. So, I remember the stories and the things that Mike used to talk about, and that I don't know the guy, but you remember Mike used to say Freud Candelario would be in his office prospecting and someone would come in and say, I want to list my house. And he'd say, come back after 12 o'clock or something like that. I don't know if that was a true story, but it always stuck with me.
It was a true story. I had an opportunity to hang with him for a day and he did that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would ever do that, but there was a time when, I was routinely at the office between 6:30 and 7 a.m. and I was on the phone by 7:30 calling expireds. Do I do that now? No, I don't need to do that anymore. And plus we don't have any expireds, but the fact is, back in that day when I was new in town and I was, not doing any business yet, I had to do that. And so I was on the phone for 4 hours every morning, 5 days a week, and every other Saturday.
But you were what you're saying then is you were a have to. You and your family moved to a new location. You knew no one. It wasn't like your kids probably didn't even have a relationship with the schools, and you didn't have the PTA. Were they on school teams? How old were the kids at the time?
We moved, my daughter was 8 and my son was 4.
Okay, so
and my husband didn't have a job.
And your husband didn't have a job. Wow. So you had to bring the money in and you had to generate business. You didn't have an option.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one of the keys.
Failure was not an option.
Failure was not an option.
And
Wow.
I always felt like I had something to prove. You know, I grew up in a household where I was always told I wasn't good enough at this, that, or the other thing. And real estate became my, oh yeah, I'm not good enough. Watch this.
Right. Good for you. Good for you. That's powerful. Very powerful. You open to take a few questions right now, Kelly?
Sure.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
I'll go
Okay.
first. I got a quick question for you. When you were prospecting pretty much all day, how long would you say that time period was? Was that like a couple months? Was that a whole year? Was that several years you prospected for those full 8 hours?
I would say that was the first year.
Wow.
And I remember it because the first brokerage I worked with, it was in a house, and they had us, there was a bunch of us in a bedroom of the house, and there were no desks left. So they actually put my desk inside the closet of the room.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the other agents sitting behind me who were just, you know, traditional agents doing whatever. And they were like, is that what you're going to do all day, every day? And I was like, yeah, I guess. I think this is my lot in life for a while. And then after I had a bunch of deals under my belt, it became more just listed and more just sold. And one transaction led to the next, but that was where it started. And that was a good year of just constant prospecting.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here, Kelly. We really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Kelly, let me ask you a question on that. Sometimes agents feel like they don't have enough information. They need to know more about the business or more about writing a contract, et cetera, et cetera. What do you say to them?
I think, one of the questions that you told me you were going to ask me about, what's my superpower?
Yeah.
And I think my superpower in regard to that question is that I really never worried too much about the details. I always felt like when I get to that point, I'll figure that out. Right now, I got to do this.
You need to generate the business.
Yeah. And I knew how to do contracts and stuff. I mean, granted, I wasn't all that familiar with Florida contracts. I knew New York contracts, but it was also much easier to work in Florida than it was in New York because we don't really use lawyers down here, which is wonderful. So it's like, here's your 10-page template, fill in the blanks. So it wasn't hard to get going. I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah,
I felt like the most important thing was finding the business, and the rest would fall into place.
No, that is the most important thing. Absolutely. Michael, did you have a question?
Yes, Kelly, thank you for being here today. Question, you said that you guys are emailing around 12,000 to your base. Is that your database? You got 12,000 people, or is just more in addition?
Yeah, no, that's just everybody that's in there. And like I said, I do not talk to 12,000 people on a regular basis, but they do get videos on a regular basis. And then, that doesn't include, I'm sorry, and that doesn't include, people who, it's like a bad word, but all the social media. I mean, when my kids were little was when MySpace came out. So I got on Facebook and all that stuff very early on. So those are big audiences too. And I work those audiences as well. So, I mean, I have to say it's probably closer to 20,000 when you put them all together.
So so this is an accumulation of 20 years worth of names, addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. Good.
And I'll tell you why. This is really the key. I remember when I was on Long Island, and I was when I was in my second market on Long Island, and there was a lady there. Her name was Rita Takaris, and I think she was a Century 21 agent in the town where I worked. And I mean, when I was prospecting up there, everyone would be like, oh yeah, when I sell my house, I'm going to call Rita. Oh yeah, I know Rita. I'm going to call Rita. Everybody's calling Rita. And I said, you know what? When I get down to Florida, I'm going to be Rita. That was my goal, was to be Rita. And, that was the thing where people will say, oh, if you need to sell, you need to call Kelly.
And that's kind of where it's at today, isn't it, Kelly?
Pretty much.
Good for you. Good for you. Tess, you had a question?
I have a question. Kelly, first of all, thank you so much. I mean, you're an amazing woman. You reminded me so much at the time when the market really went down in 2008. There's no other option, and failure is definitely not for you. So my question would be, because you do a lot of YouTube, do you take a lot of, in other words, video, do you have somebody preparing that for you, or you just do this on your own and like, okay, let me look at some article and get prepared?
That's what, yeah, I get inspired by things that I read or other agents when I see other agents doing great things. And I say, or I see a topic that needs to be addressed, and I say, that could be a video. And even my coach, my coach is great because we'll be talking about something and she'll be like, Kelly, that would make a really great viral video. So I get some ideas from that, but it's not real. I mean, I probably, as far as the technical aspect of my videos, I would not say they're fantastic. As I mean, I've seen agents that do some really great stuff. And that's all well and good, but that's not me. And I think one of the reasons that people have been drawn to me is because I just am regular like them and they feel kind of relatable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And my next question would be, would you be okay sharing that questionnaire that you have when you close a transaction for a review for your
Oh
client?
yeah, sure. I can cut and paste it into the chat if you want.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kelly. Appreciate it.
If you stay on, I'll take you to my chat. I'll cut and paste it on when we're done.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Okay, good. Other questions for Kelly? Kelly Fischer. Other questions?
And one other thing
Go
too
ahead.
that you have to keep front of mind is, especially if you're in a market where people are leaving or coming in from other places, is always asking them if they need help with an agent on the other end. So I get a lot of referral business from that. I just had someone coming to Florida from Portland, and I said, have you talked to any agents about selling your house? Because I belong to a network of the top 1% of agents across the country. I'd be happy to make a connection for you. And, that's a $8,000 referral fee coming my way. And so
Wow.
just keep in mind that everyone is moving to or from somewhere, and you might be able to get a piece of that action if you're front of mind and, being able to help them.
Great thought. Great thought. Okay, other questions for Kelly? Just ask, or because I can't see everybody.
Well, you must have a whole bunch of very successful agents.
Well, we have a decent
Kel-
amount.
So a question came in to me, Neil. Mentioned if you're doing 8 to 10 prospect all day, is that the same advice for someone who's just starting their business?
For someone that's just starting their business, I mean, there's only so many people you can talk to in a day before your brain is going to explode, But you have to push yourself beyond what's comfortable.
I mean,
Kelly?
that's really how you got from point A to point B. You would never have been able to accomplish that, Kelly, without it.
Right. I mean, look, you have so much time for servicing business. And if you don't have any business, then all you have left to do is go find some business to service. But when you get to, I don't know, maybe it's different now because things have changed so much in the last probably 5 years, I would say, right, Neil, wouldn't you say? I mean, it used to be when you got to 50 transactions, you needed an assistant. And I think that's probably much lower now.
Yeah, we agree.
Right? What does Mike say now about assistants? Like, where does he recommend you get your first?
25 to 30, but a lot of times what we're doing is looking for help with stuff even a little bit lower. So yeah, the virtual assistant idea is blossoming all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many
Kelly?
companies that do that. Personally, for me, it was just easier because this is someone that had worked with me side by side for a year and already knew what to do. Didn't matter if she was with me or in Texas. So,
right. And I think with COVID, basically what you see here is what we've been doing since March 17th. We role play in the morning, we prospect after that. Then we do some type of event like this. Then we do more prospecting, and then we do a master's university. And we do that 5 days a week. People are in and out. You, the management team here, our brokers on here. So this is, we teach virtual listing presentations, what to do and how to do it, and how to get the signatures.
Mhm.
So, I mean, most of the agents on here are pretty virtual. And I definitely think that's tomorrow's business today.
Well, and I'll tell you one thing that I think that a habit that I picked up last year that I'm definitely continuing is I feel like people are so in need of human connection and so still home, and even after this is over with, I think it's just hard for people to connect in the world nowadays. So many times rather than making a phone call now, I do a FaceTime call.
Good.
And the first time they're like, oh my gosh, what do you, and I'm like, I just wanted to see your face and see how you're doing. Are you okay? You're having a good day, and it's just another level of connection that people seem to appreciate, especially when, at least for me, because I'm in Florida and a lot of the clients are not actually here and I may never see them. When you think about how we communicate and only 7% are the words, and that way you're seeing their face and they're seeing your face.
Right.
And I think it just makes it for a better relationship. So FaceTime calls have been really critical in the past year and something that I'm still doing and I will continue doing.
Great. Excellent. Michael, did you have a question again? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure. Listen, if I'm not looking at the screen, it looks like I'm listening to Melinda. She sounds like Melinda a lot.
Melinda,
I got a question. I know.
We know Kelly and I have known each other for a million years. So
hey, girl. What are you doing? Hi. Is that your house?
Actually,
Melinda.
That's my next house.
That's her next house,
okay.
Kelly. Next house.
Kelly, the question that I have based on your experience, and you realize you just share with us when we have the problems with the short sales before, and now you are acknowledging that right now the market is a little hard, no expires like you said, and many sellers don't want to sell. And if you transfer this time to the time when you started, because when you started was different, for a new agent like Neil is asking you, we had to face this challenge now. Sellers don't want to sell, and expires, they are not there. So now the key is database. I guess that's what most people that I see are getting most of the business, correct?
Well, yeah, but there's also, one of the other things that Michael was taught was, the fastest way to make a commission is to get a hot buyer. So I was never one much for buyers, but I will all day long take a great buyer and work them around for a day or a day and a half if they're going to buy something. Because that's just as good as a great listing. But that's something that you have to learn over time, to spot that. And then of course, how to navigate them through this particular market. So it all comes down to talking to people, whether it's sellers or buyers. You just have to be putting yourself in situations where you're talking to people and finding people to transact with.
Good thought. Okay, any other questions for Kelly? We're going to wind down here in a second. Nothing else? Okay, unmute yourselves. Let's give Kelly a big giant hand. Woo! All right. Good job, good job, good job. So
Neil, I have a question actually.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Did anyone ask about books? I didn't hear the books question.
No.
Can she recommend some books?
Okay, I will give, hold on. If you guys get a chance, check out my Instagram. I recently had an interview with Ryan. I did a Instagram live with Ryan Serhant from $1 Million Listing New York. Hold on a second. This book is fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And I recommend it on Audible because his personality he's a big personality.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
much fun to read.
Excellent, excellent. So Kelly, what we tend to do right now is we're going to go into a kind of a question I ask all of our agents. What did they learn? What did they learn from Kelly? So if you want to hang, and hear what you taught. That's great. If you're running into a hard stop because it's a couple minutes after 1 here, I don't remember if you had a mastermind call or not, but we really appreciate your time, your effort, your energy, your success. You know, I say to people in life that we're either an example or a warning, and you are definitely right up there as one of the best examples. So thank you so very, very much.
Oh, thank you.
You're
That's very
welcome.
sweet of you to say.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, everyone. So what do we learn? What do we learn from Miss Kelly today?
Can I share something real quick?
Please.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much. I don't have any questions for you, but I have all the appreciation and gratitude for you. And what I learned from you today is really start working on the online review. I never done that before because, you know, this taught me a lesson. My past clients want to sell his house. He interviewed other agents because, you know, we have 2 stars on online. So eventually he still went with me, but otherwise it would be just so easy.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if you look at, no matter how you slice it, Zillow is going to be the elephant in the room probably for a long time to come. And whether it's a buyer or a seller looking for an agent, that's where they are. And they're going to look at the agents that's, you know, who are there and say, okay, this agent has 3 reviews and this agent has no reviews and this agent has 350 reviews. Who are they going to call?
Yeah, I know. I lost a lot of
And the same for
business, sure.
referrals from other agents. I mean, I do it too. I need an agent in Santa Monica. You know, I might call my referral network, but usually it's going to take them a day or 2 to get back to me. And if I need someone fast, I'm popping on Zillow, Santa Monica, California. Who's got a ton of reviews? That's who I'm calling with my referral.
Got it. Good point, Kelly. Thank you. Thanks, Yvonne. What else did we learn today from Kelly? Go ahead, Robert.
Well, first, Kelly, again, like everyone said, greatly appreciate it. I wrote down a number of things here, but one of the things I wrote down is how calm and simple you just make the job. You know, it's nothing. Sometimes when we listen to people like you, we're agents are looking for that magic. Oh, she's going to tell me something that I don't have to prospect and I don't have to do this. And this is going to be the key. And you're just cool, calm, and collected. Oh, I prospected all day and I did the reviews. And Neil's asking, so who does this? And you're like, oh, I do it. How was COVID? Well, for the first month, I had a bunch of money. Like, it was just so cool, calm, and collected. Like, nothing gets to you. Now, internally, maybe, but externally, like, nothing gets to you. It's just life goes on. You do your job and everything will be fine. I think that is a very inspiring message, as simple as it is.
That's great. Great
Thank
thought.
you for saying that. Yeah. You know, I think that if you're gonna, you know, if you're in freak out mode all the time, people sense that. And our job is to be calm when everyone else is freaking out. And it's funny you brought this up because I remember when I was sitting on the bathroom floor having a meltdown thinking the world was coming to an end in 2008, I started to think, you know, okay, so what's the worst thing that could happen? What if every property I own gets foreclosed on? You know, what if the house I live in gets foreclosed on? Am I going to be living in a box under a bridge? And it really helped to calm me down when I said, everything's going to be fine, you know? So even now, whether it's a transaction or a disagreement with another person, whatever the case may be, it's all going to be fine.
Love it. It's a great
It might
thought.
not be that way right now, but it might be 6 months from now. And like I said, when my whole team quit, I could have been like, oh my God, my whole team quit. What am I going to do? It was like, all right, I guess I'm heading for a new season in life. I'm going to have to figure it out now.
It's a great thought. Great attitude. Good stuff.
Hey,
All right. Go ahead, Michael.
Neil, a question about maybe you can answer or maybe her. She said that when she do a reviews, she got a place and that she goes, I guess, or whatever, and then you can go put them in realtor.com, Google, and a different place. It's like in a place that you can go, or you have to do one by one.
Well, so it didn't come up on the chat the way that I do it, but those are actually links. So if you go to your profile on the different places and get and create a link to your Facebook profile, your Zillow profile, so that it makes it easy for them to just click on it, and then they can just cut and paste their reviews onto the various places where you want them to go.
Okay.
Got it. Kelly, if you could send it to me in an email, like
Sure.
the way that you have it, that'd be great. Then
Mhm.
I could press the link and say what a great lady you are.
Thank you. You'd have to do that from your personal email, because I think they probably flag other real estate professionals.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, got it. Okay, what else? What else did we learn today? What else? Go ahead, Albert. By the way, Albert, I love that tie and jacket.
Thank you.
It looks
Appreciate it.
spiffy.
Doesn't he look
Wow.
great? Woo, baby. You got an audition today.
What was that?
You got an audition today.
I actually did, but anyways. All right, Kelly, thank you for sharing your story. There's one, the story about when you started losing your team. Obviously you say your ego got bruised, but then there was a great things coming right after that, and a great lecture, and that was that everything was working out itself, because then the COVID came, and then you realized that you had an actual already set up for that specific time.
Correct.
So I think that was a great thing to learn from that. No matter what's going on, there's always something that's going to come from it, a lesson. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you remember Neil years ago when Matthew Ferrer used to say, "Ooh, something good's gonna happen now"? Remember?
Absolutely.
It's so true. I mean, who could ever think that great things come from terrible things? But that's always what happens.
You're exactly correct. And whatever you think, my experience has been, no matter how bad you think it's going to be, whether you have to tell a seller about something that's not great or something else, my experience is the reaction is never as bad as you think it's going to be. Okay, what else do we learn? Did I lose? I feel like everybody went dead on me. All right, any other?
Well, I got one that nobody has mentioned.
Go ahead.
But I will tell you, if you bust your ass for 20 years, the next 20, you can kind of coast through and still be making a lot of money.
So one of the ways
So
that
all these young kids I see up here who
Uh-huh.
think they're 25.
Now, Neil?
if you do what others won't do for 10 years, you can do what others can't do for the rest of your life, right, Kelly?
That's right.
Right,
That's
Melinda?
right.
But you gotta put in, here's the issue. No one wants to pay that price, Kelly. They're not willing to put your 20 years in. I wanna be like that great pianist. I'll do anything to be like that great pianist. And the pianist says, no, you won't. I just spent 45 years of 8 hours a day practice to be that pianist. You're not going to do that. And that's the issue today, unfortunately, is that there are some people on here that will be inspired to do what you're doing, Kelly. Yet there are some people on here that'll say, well, that's not for me. That's not for me.
Yeah. Well,
And
I will
right.
tell you that, the things that I learned and the people I met through MFO and, Melinda being one of them, just some really great connections and so much I've learned that, if you're going to have a great life, you have to earn it. It's not just going to fall in your lap. But I mean, even my kids say it now. Yeah, mom was never home. Mom was always working. Mom was this, mom was that. But you know what? They all got to go to college, come out debt free. They all have great lives. They're all self-supporting. They had a good role model that taught them that life doesn't hand anything to you. And I'm proud of that. Did we miss some stuff over the years? Yeah, maybe. But I'd rather that we missed some stuff over the years and have raised kids who could, be productive adults. Whereas all their friends are, not all, but, working at Starbucks and, back home living with their parents. And our kids are like, I had a great example of what work does for you.
Perfect. Love it. You know what? Let's unmute ourselves. I don't think nothing better is gonna be said from Kelly today. That was right on. Good job. Thank you, Kelly Fisher.
You guys are
Appreciate
so
it.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Robert, you're gonna post her information in the chat box, because occasionally, Kelly, you'd be okay with some referral business, right?
Yep.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's rock and roll. Kelly, again, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff.